Go. Hey, welcome to Coach Marketing Mastery Podcast with India Kern, Sean Snowday, co-founders of Coach Marketing Mastery. And India today is going to tell us about how she deals with uncoachable clients. Or maybe I'll do that. I don't know.
Well, I thought we could go over what makes a person uncoachable versus coachable and the
Well,
traits.
and we're just going to go off the fly here. I think everybody is coachable
Mhm.
as long as you can find the right angle. Just some people won't work with other people. And I did tech support for Microsoft DOS. I was there when Windows came out. And we weren't coaching or consultants, but we were teachers. We were teaching people how to use computers
Mhm.
and or how to use a mouse or what a window was, and how people weren't used to the graphics and stuff. And the thing is, if someone wouldn't work with me, we could pass them off to someone else and they would work perfectly with them.
Yeah.
So there's always that I don't know the word, but you know the word, variable when it
Yeah.
comes
And
to
I think, well, as a coach, you're not going to always agree with what your client is saying, but it doesn't mean you can't coach them. I mean, there's many times when I hear things, I'm just like, whoa, but there's no judgment in it because it really doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me, but I want them to get where they want to be. So they're at point A, they want to get to point B. We may not be aligned in our belief system, like
yeah.
core belief system. So, I deal, not only do I do marketing, I do divorce coaching. So there's a lot of things that happen, around divorce and you really can't get emotionally invested. Like you can't let your emotions run the show. You have to be objective. You have to ask the right questions so that they can come to their own conclusion. There's a great quote by Sandler, and it is people do not argue with their own data. So that's what a coach does. A coach draws the data out by asking the right questions because the answer is really inside of each person. We help draw it out.
Yeah, there's a few things to that because I've always said there's coaching, consulting, and mentorship. So
Mm-hmm.
coaching is pulling out the information.
Right.
I don't really do that. Mentorship is I've been there and I'm going to show you how to get there. That's really what I do. And
Yeah.
then consulting is kind of like, well, let's both kind of throw mud at the wall. I think you say spaghetti at the wall,
Yeah.
which I don't like that saying because I'd rather eat the spaghetti. I'm not going to eat mud. I don't make mud pies, but spaghetti is good.
Yeah.
But the deal is, when it comes to consulting, it's kind of like, well, let's go look at how we could do this, which I do with a lot of my clients, but
Mm-hmm.
also with the mentorship. I'm like, look, I already know how this
Yeah.
works. I'm going to show you how it works. And if you want to argue with me how to get from point A to point B, well, then we're not a fit. You got to go somewhere else. And I have clients currently that I go, what do you want? They go, I want you to build it like this. And I build it exactly as they wanted. And then the next week they're like, well, that doesn't even work. I'm like, I built it exactly the way you said you wanted it. And no, it doesn't work. So to get back to coaching and the uncoachable, do you have any experiences when you've been in coachable yourself? Because I could tell you some of mine.
Um, yeah, I probably, well, I think one of the biggest things is how you see yourself. I think everything goes back to self image. So if you cannot see yourself in that position, like say you want to be a coach to women in their 50s who are going through menopause, and you can't visually and you can't own that as a, like in your mind, see yourself in that position doing it. If you have a low self-image, you will never be able to be coached to that point. So it all starts with a belief. The belief has to be there that you can actually achieve where you want to go. If you don't have the belief, you can't get there. And so a lot of this is mindset and really helping because not every people get to that point, right? Because a lot of coachees come to you, clients come to you, and they want it, but they don't quite yet see themselves there. So it's a process to get a person from believing that they can actually achieve this goal, this whatever they want to take on. So a lot of that, I think, coaching helps with. I know it's helped with me in my journey to what I'm doing now. I mean, even we've done that before. Like I mean, I'm doing things that I really didn't think I would ever do.
Yeah, the thing with so I have an experience. So here's the thing with coaching is you can only coach someone that allows you and gives you permission to coach them.
Right.
I one of my worst clients ever. I can't even remember their name, but
Well, you
there's a
don't need to say it.
no, I can't remember their name. I have their
Well,
book.
that's good. That's good. That's
I
okay.
can't remember the lady's name, and she had a partner, and I can't remember his name, but he was the worst. And she was not really too. But anyhow, so what happened was, it had to do with so before the pandemic, I worked with treatment centers and people in recovery and recovery coaches and this and that. A lot of people. I had a podcast called Sobriety Society. It's still probably out there somewhere. And so these guys hire me. I remember going to this event out by Disneyland, and this is in like 2018 or 2017. And I get a client from there. I got a couple clients from there, but there's one particular client. And so as we're figuring stuff out, like I always say, when working with me, you got to go through a dance. And the dance is I'm stepping on your toes, you're stepping on my toes. And then once we mesh, we fly like an eagle, right? Well, the guy starts coaching me on recovery. And I'm like, dude, I've been sober 20 years. Okay. You do not need to coach me, or however much time I had then, 22, 23 years. I'm like, I don't need that. I'm a digital marketer. I'm going to help you with your marketing. Yeah, well, what feelings did you have for your mother, when you were 3? I'm like, hey, quit asking me, like, get off that. And I'm telling him, you don't have my permission to ask me. And then he gets mad. But since it was her business partner, she's like, what did you do to make that guy mad? I'm like, I'm a professional. I don't need therapy. Well, I probably need therapy. I mean, if you ask my friends, they'll tell you I
Right.
need therapy. But I don't need therapy from that person, right? I need therapy and coaching from people. Now I've had another coach, and I paid this guy $6,000, and he would probably say I was uncoachable, but in reality, technically I was smarter than him. He was a coach, but he wasn't an implementer like me. And so he would say things and I'd go, it's not like that. It's not like that. So when in his head, he's like, well, you're uncoachable. And in my head, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. So there's also that factor as well, right?
Yeah.
But then let's get into like what are some elements that makes a person uncoachable?
Well, taking no responsibility or no accountability is definitely an uncoachable trait, because you have to look at the full picture, and to build anything, whether it's a business, a marriage, whatever, if it goes sideways, it takes two. I mean, not necessarily in a business, but say you have a business partner or a marriage, it takes two to build it up. It takes two to tear it down, right? So there has to be accountability in anything that you do. And if you cannot take responsibility, and the blame is always on someone else, then we have a problem.
Yeah. I actually I just chat GBT'd it because I'm lazy, but it came up with some good stuff. It said, resistance to feedback, fixed mindset, lack of self-awareness, overconfidence, poor communication skills, inconsistent motivation, past negative experiences, and unwillingness to change. So let's take a little bit and drill down into a few of those. So resistance to feedback. What would bring that about someone? Is it the fear of change, the fear of success, the fear of failure? If they're resistant,
Yeah, I mean the root is fear, but it's maybe vulnerability. They don't want to be vulnerable, but yeah, the essence is fear, and so It could be they don't want to change because they're in the habit of being this person or this business, even though it's not going anywhere, it's not doing what they want it to. We get in the habit of even crises, right? We get some people are addicted to drama. So we have to really look at the full picture. And if you're, you know, if God, I just lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that?
You're just saying we're just talking about resistance.
Yeah, so maybe they're resistant to change because they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to have the responsibility. Some people don't take responsibility. I mean, a high conflict person will never take responsibility. And
Yeah.
it's always someone else's fault. They always have a target of blame. So that's a hard trait to coach. You can't coach that.
Yeah, one of the things with me, and for instance, you gave me some feedback over the weekend that one of they weren't a client, they were a friend of yours, said something about, are you comfortable saying what it was?
Totally. Yeah.
What was it?
Well, she said that sometimes you seem a little frustrated and angry.
And what did I say?
To me?
I'll tell you how I responded to that.
Okay, tell me, because I can't
Did you ever see the movie The Fugitive with Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford?
Probably not. I don't remember.
There is a scene in there where they're running through a tunnel. They're chasing them through a tunnel in like how a car goes through a tunnel. And Harrison Ford jumps out in the middle of the tunnel and he goes, and there's this big waterfall. And Harrison Ford is about to jump off the waterfall. And Tommy Lee Jones drops his gun, and Harrison Ford, who's the fugitive, is holding the gun. And Harrison Ford says to Tommy Lee Jones, "I did not shoot my wife." And when you said to me, well, you seemed a little frustrated and angry, I said the same thing that Tommy Lee Jones said. So Harrison Ford said, "I didn't shoot my wife." And Tommy Lee Jones said, "I don't care." Yay for me. But here's the deal. This is why I don't care about that feedback. I've had it before. And I'm assertive. I've done this work. I still have it. And this is like a writer downer, is what Suzanne Evans says. But this is everyone listening to this.
Pro tip.
You should do some type of work to where it comes down to that one word of who you are as a coach. And my one word is I'm assertive. And I did this like 15 years ago. And I had to do all this thing, and I wrote, and it probably would be faster with ChatGPT, but I had to collect like 100 words and then drill down to like 50 words and then to 25 words, then 10. And that one word is I'm assertive. So when someone goes, "Wow, you seem really angry," it's like, no, I'm drilling into you. You don't like it because right now you're full of crap and you won't go out and live an amazing, incredible life because for some reason, you're not willing to do it. Let me give you an example. People will say, well, I speak from the stage. No, here's an even better one. I would used to go to Chamber of Commerce mixers, and people would say, and I'd be carrying around a video camera. This is before smartphones. So I had a little handheld, and I'd go, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" They'd go, "Oh, well, we make videos for companies." And I'm like, "Really? Do you have a studio?" And they're like, "No." And I go, "Well, do you have a video camera?" And they're like, "Well, we're going to get one." And I'd pull out my video camera and I'd go, "Okay, great. Say to my camera what you do." And then they'd get all weird. And I was like, "No, you just said that you do video for people. I'm over here. I don't do video people." So that's me being assertive, kind of being a jerk, right? But it's being assertive and saying, "Let's go." That was a bad example. But still, my point is, with you, what do you think your one word would be for you being a coach? Because you could say patient, but I don't think that's what it is.
I don't think that's my one word. I need to think on that. But in different areas, like I've done a little bit with it with my divorce coaching, and it's definitely healing is in there with teaching. Healing.
Yeah. So what with healing, right? Like this is great. This is why I'm the salt and you're the sweet is because I open up the wound and you like put the
bandage on it.
hydrogen peroxide in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't burn, but the like alcohol would.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my point is that, you know, the thing is that dealing, okay, so then there's that, it's the resistance, but then the fixed mindset. This is the hardest one to break. And I don't deal with people that are not willing, that they're like, this is how it is. And I'll give you give me an example. Do you have an example of, I want to go through all of these.
Right.
So this is going to go maybe longer than you wanted. So with a fixed mindset, when you come upon a person that is like, well, this is how it is, this is how it always will be, and it will never change.
Oh, I can give you a good one. Okay, this is not really marketing, although I'm sure we have an example with that too. Mm-hmm. But like, say I coach someone that's like, I have to have the kids 90% of the time. I'm like, okay, tell me more about that. Most of the time, it's not going to happen, and I have to slowly bring them to realization that their wants are not reality, and that it can be a tough spot, but we get there. But they want unrealistic outcomes, and so I have to bring them to a realistic outcome that they can get behind, because I'll tell you, it's just, you can want all you want. You can want all day long, but there's so many factors, and you are arguing with reality. So I have to help them get to reality.
Yeah. I'll tell you the hardest, the one thing I'll tell you, when I first started coaching, doing the free sessions that sell with Christian Michelson, what you do is you got to get the marbles out of your mouth. That's where I got that from. Not from him, but I say you got to coach a lot of people and get your marbles out of your mouth before you make $1, because you're going to stutter, utter, and mutter. Mm-hmm. I've been saying this so long but anyhow, I was talking with this one lady and I said, if you could wave a realistic magic wand, where would you be a year from now? She'd be, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to make $20 million. I'm like, okay. I go, is that realistic? And she's like, yes. And I said, okay. So did you make $20 million last year? She goes, no. I said, well, did you make $1 million last year? And she goes, no. And I go, well, did you make $100,000 last year? She goes, no. And I go, well, did you make $50,000 last year? She goes, no. I go, well, how about 30? She goes, no, and then she went into whatever story. She made like 20 grand or something. Yeah. I go, well, would you be happy if you made $60,000? Mm-hmm. She goes, oh yeah, that'd be a fantastic. She just got all excited with the $60,000 number. I said, great. So that's kind of a realistic number for you, right? Mm-hmm. She goes, yes. I go, great. So if you could wave a realistic magic wand, where would you like to be a year from now? I'm going to write a book. I'm going to have $20 million. And I went, okay. I go, I get that, but you do realize that. And since I was a new coach, you do realize you're delusional. That's always what you want to say in a coaching session. So I said, you do realize that that's not like a realistic. Mm-hmm. I didn't say delusional. And she said, well, Sean, you just don't understand the power of intention and of alignment and of like I just saw the movie The Secret, and when did that come out? 2008 or something like that? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so I was like, okay, well, it's not going to happen, but to break that type of mindset. Mm-hmm. And so I worked with her and I took her through the whole thing. And now I realize, those people, we have Coach Marketing Mastery, and we have 100 First Referrals, and we have, what's the other one? The Ultimate Phone Follow-Up. Mm-hmm. So with people like that, we could just go, hey, we got a free gift for you. Yeah. Would you like it? Sure. Great. Bye. Boom. Yeah, we do that a lot too. Yeah. And the thing is, we're not saying they're delusional. They just need to get to the next step. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Now, lack of self-awareness without a clear understanding of their strengths and weaknesses. So how do you deal with someone? Okay. This is a good one, because you can't teach. Good for you. You can't teach self-awareness. So again, you have to ask the right questions, bring them through the right exercises so they come to it on their own. You cannot teach self-awareness.
And I don't think that self-aware, like lack of self-awareness, is a deal breaker, because a lot of people that I have coached before are not self-aware, but are getting there. You know, they're open to be coached, they're open to change. So that's not a deal breaker as long as they're open to work on themselves and to grow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, self-awareness is you can't teach it.
I'm not really sure what self-awareness is.
Okay, I'll give you an example. I mean, this is not like a coaching example, but say you have a guest come in the house. I live at the beach. They just went to the beach. They have a sandy feet, wet towel. They're dripping wet, and they just walk straight in the
Sit on
house
your couch.
and sit on the couch. And you're like, wait, you know, and you're like, we have a shower outside. You got to wash off the sand on your feet. Don't sit on the couch when you're wet. That is complete lack of self-awareness. And that's a stupid example that you can take with other things.
And I kind of, you know, and what it says here is self-awareness is a clear understanding of their strengths and weaknesses. But I also, you know, and it's because some people are just self-centered, and I think there's a difference. I'll give an example. I went to the store the other day, and there is this guy, and he was being a bully to the child. I don't know if it was his kid or not, but and he was a younger guy, but he like said, "Hey, you want the ball?" And we're standing in line to buy something, and the kid's like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Hop," and walks away with the ball. Now the kid has a meltdown. We're like, and then so the mom goes, "Why would you do that to him?"
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like going, this kind of seems like a boyfriend and not a dad. But if it's a dad, he's a prick, right? So I don't say anything. But then they leave the cart. The mom walks away. So rather than moving the cart with the little boy in it, so where I could put my stuff up on the little, what's the spinny thing called? The escalator thing, whatever.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that spins at the shop at the. So
Checkout.
yeah, checkout. That little.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. He leaves the cart there with the kid, and he's way down the line, like paying with the credit card.
Yeah.
And like I literally want to go, wow, dude, you're like lack of respect. Like I just wanted to say something, right?
Yeah.
But I knew it would have been an issue.
Yeah.
Because he was the kind of guy that would have gone, yo, G, what
So
up?
you have the self-awareness not to do that.
I had the self-awareness, but I don't think his was self-awareness. I think his was just self-centeredness.
Right.
Right. And so that's kind of where I'm trying to give the differentiation there.
Yeah, definitely.
But also, so the other one, now this is the worst one, is overconfidence in our clients, where they're just like, again, that lady, well, you don't know, I'm going to make $20 million. I'm going to write a book. I'm like, really? So what's your book going to be called? You know, how to find yourself?
So really, why did you come here? Why did you come to me? If you already know the answers, like if you already know what you're going to do.
So do you, well, and I don't think people have ever, I've never had a client pay me money that was that.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't either.
But it's always on the free calls.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't even remember that one lady's name, but she was so funny. And she just went all over and like looked at everything that we had to offer. And she was a doctor. And I was like, wow, you know, But it was really kind of an interesting experience.
Well, do you remember there was one that got mad at me when I asked her a question?
Yeah.
That was interesting.
And I can't remember what the question is or why
it was like a normal question. It wasn't anything personal. It was just, why do you do this instead of this? And she's like, why would you ask me that? I'm like,
right.
I you know, is it a personal thing?
And stuff like that is people that everyone asks them that. And it's kind of like, you know, and so, yeah, and I don't like using the word triggered, but you know, sometimes that word fits. Poor communication skills. This is what I have. Because I have poor listening skills and poor communication skills. When I'm dealing with someone, when I'm telling them, if you want to get out of the woods, you got to go around that tree and over that rock, and they argue with me. I'm like, zip. I'm not listening to you. You go do it the other way. I'm sure there is another way. There's more than one way to, you know, I don't want to
Peel a
use.
banana? I don't know what.
It's skin a cat, but I didn't want to say that. I don't think that that's appropriate anymore.
I said peel a banana. I don't really
Oh,
know.
peel
There's,
banana.
yeah.
Yeah, upside down or right side up. But the thing is, one of the things with me is I, as a coach, will shut down and not listen anymore. When the person, and if I've listened to them 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, now we're going in circles, and I have had this multiple times. I had a client one time where what happens is they hire me, and then they're like, oh, well, rather than paying Sean all this money, I'll just have my admin who writes my copy and who goes to the store and gets the mayonnaise on my sandwiches, right? I have a great story about that. I can't tell it right now. But anyhow, I'll just have my admin do what Sean does, right? Then the admin will go, well, I made this opt-in form and it went right back to page 1. And I'm like, no, let's go to page 2. And they go, oh, okay, I get it. And it goes to page 2, but the email link takes them to page 1. Now you know this because you've been through my thing, and I'm telling her, that doesn't work. You're like going in a loop right now. You don't want to do it that way. Well, what are you saying? Well, it's looping. You really want to send them back to page 2. Well, I wrote it, and I'm like, but that's not. And I'm like, look, it's not going to work. You don't do it that way, and you don't do it that way. But my communication skills suck. A and B, ain't nobody got time for that. I'm that person, right? I'm losing it right now. The original title of this podcast was Sean losing it in business because he can't tolerate people. I think something like that, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So let's not talk about my poor communication skills anymore.
Let's talk about a negative mindset or a poor self-image, because I think that is also something that holds people back.
Well, there's one that says past negative experiences.
Yeah. So I always go back to, and for some reason it's a theme for me today because it's come across my path like 3 times, the hands, right? So this is who you appear to the world. This is how the world sees you. This is how you are, how you feel, what your belief systems, your thoughts. And if they're very far apart, you have incongruencies. So with good coaching and doing the work, you can collapse them. So that to me is, you want to be authentic. How you appear to the world is how you believe and feel and think. So let me give you a good example. I think this was, I can't remember who said it. I saw a reel about it and I thought it was so good. When you get to a point where you're in a job or you're doing what you love, is like play and work, it's hard to tell the difference. And I know we have our ups and downs, of course. There's times where we're not having so much fun, but I do think we have a lot of fun. And so I believe that is just the sweetest spot, when someone who sees what you're doing can't tell if it's work or play, or it seems like it's both. That to me is the ultimate goal. When you can just have, and that's what I feel like coach marketing mastery is for me. I don't know if you feel the same, but I do feel that way. And about my divorce coaching, I really love what I do. And I know you love what you do because you work all the time. And if you didn't love it, I don't think you'd be doing it.
Yeah, but with the negative, what did you say? We were saying past negative experiences or negative, like people being uncoachable.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying? The negative mindset?
I was just saying that if you feel like the negative mindset, to me, goes back to also a poor self-image. And that was what the hands thing was, collapsing. So a great quote is, if you have a poor self-image, it will destroy your life. But the good news is you can always improve your self-image. So that collapsing of hands, how you appear and who you truly are, is what coaching can do. Like a really good coach and a client can come together and collapse that. And so that negative mindset is thrown out, or negative self-image is thrown out the window.
it's so weird that you bring that up because I had I'd written you know how Facebook comes up with past, you know, this happened 6
Yeah,
years
yeah,
ago.
memories.
Well, I used to do a 1 hour meditation every Tuesday at Maggie Park. Everyone calls it McGee Park in North County, and it's in the village in Carlsbad, right?
Okay.
It's called Maggie Park. It's about a block from the beach. And they have all these, you know, buildings that are owned by the city that we can rent and have events there and stuff. And so I had a 1 hour meditation every Tuesday, and a lot of people knew me from that area as the guy that did all the meditations. And I was the one that led them. I was the one that opened the door. I had to be there early. I was at every single one. I did this for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so one time, and I can't remember what we were saying, but what came up is I go, we got to find someone that has a lot of quiet within them that really is really an expression of having a large quiet within them, and it is an expression of that. And we're in a circle of people, right? So there's like probably 7 people standing in a circle, and I said that, and for some reason I said, you know, we got to find someone that really has the expression of solitude and silence within them. And this one girl goes, I thought that was you. And everyone kind of nods their head and look at me, and I'm like, really? I'm a freaking basket case. But in that arena, right?
Yeah.
In this arena, this is work. But when you see me out there other places, I'm being authentic. I mean, this is why I have a following. This is why I sponsor a lot of people. And, you know, and I have, you know, grand sponsees, great grand sponsees, great grand sponsees, because I do the work. But also there's another time I have these live events called Automated Marketing Summit. So, you know, Catherine Lloyd was at the very first one. And I was like, I don't even know what's going on. There's times at that event where I was in a room by myself. I couldn't even find anyone. And everyone else was out doing their thing. And so at the end of it, after 2 hours, I talked with Catherine, and she goes, that was a lot of fun. I go, really? I go, I'm glad you had a lot of fun. She goes, yeah, everyone spoke about you with a lot of reverence. And I was like, what? I know what my brother's middle name is Revere. So I know what reverence is, but I don't see myself that way. I just see myself, you know, the way I explain myself. You know that guy in La Jolla that walks down the street yelling out loud, the homeless guy? You know, he's wearing dirty clothes. He's like, blah, blah. I go, the only difference between that guy and me is he's doing it out loud. I'm walking down the street. My brain is just going, right? So the self-awareness, I mean,
You have the self-awareness not to do that.
Right. So that now here's the big one. We'll wrap it up with this, because this is the big one, the unwillingness to change.
Yeah.
But the worst part about this, and I'm going to talk about the war room, not our war room, but Roland's and Ryan's war room,
Okay.
and the guy that they had in there, and it's the unwillingness to change. So this guy had an ink company, so he sold printer ink, and it's called the Ink Cartels, right? I know a guy. I used to actually. There's this guy that he has a 16-bedroom house in 16 bathrooms in Bel Air, right? And he sells ink, right? Anyhow, this guy that was in the war room, and you know, they're paying like 30, 40, 50 grand to be in that mastermind group. And they're like, okay, you got to get on the website and you got to sell ink on the internet. This is many years ago.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And he'd come back the next quarter. They're like, did you do it? Oh, no, I got to do that, you know, and he never did it. And then everyone else that did do that put him in the dust, right?
Yeah.
And this comes down to coach marketing mastery. Like, where am I unwilling to change? Where are you unwilling to change? Where is your business unwilling to change? What are we unwilling to do? One of the things is I'm not willing to bring in people that are going to be vampires and just want all of our time.
Right.
We don't have anyone like that right now.
Right.
I'm not willing to bring anyone like that. So what do you do when you're coaching someone and they're just not willing to change, but they've paid like a year up front?
That's a hard one. I think you have to address it. You definitely have to call it out. Say it, say it gently, whatever, but you got to call it out.
Yeah.
And maybe it's okay if you're not willing to look at this. I don't know where we go from here.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it is telling them the truth. But, I can't think of any particular client that was unwilling to change. I have friends that are unwilling to change. I have a friendship, which is no longer a friendship, of 20 years. And I told this particular individual, quit doing that. Quit talking to me like that. Quit being disrespectful. Here's the funniest thing about this guy. I told him, stop. And we broke up. And this is like a guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were friends. And then for 5 years, I said, I'm not going to talk to that guy anymore because he's toxic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something happened. I saw him again at an event. We started talking, a couple, and then a few years later, I go, he finally says, how about if we just never talk again? I go, that would be fine with me, because all you do is attack me, put me down. And I think he was raised like this by his parents.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have another best friend. He's like, I never see that in that guy. He goes, do you talk about all these people this way? I go, they don't show it to you because you're not close to them.
Mm-hmm.
You see them once a month or every other month. I saw this guy every freaking day. We hung out, and he is freaking toxic, right? So sometimes it's just, you just got to sever it at the umbilical cord.
Yeah. I think a life transition oftentimes will do it for you.
Yeah.
I know that's happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this has been pretty good. Let's see if we can end this on a positive note. So I'm going to say, how would we end this podcast on a positive note?
I know how to end it on a positive.
Well, let's ask ChatGPT.
Okay.
It'll say, share. Well, we could end with resources. We can offer our resources, and we can share a success story. What do you think?
Well, I'll say that I think a success story would be the best.
Okay.
So now we need to think of one. So I had one. I have one. It's not necessarily a client. It's someone that came to our masterclass, and she texted me, "Please always invite me." She loved it so much. She's like, "Please keep me on your list." She's in Namibia, which is South Africa. Well, not South Africa, but Africa. And so she found it so valuable. She's like, "Please, please, please don't take me off the list."
Yeah. Yeah. I would say with me, a success story was someone that was uncoachable, but ended up being coachable. Would be someone, and I'm trying to think of a client where I worked with them and they just really didn't understand what was happening. I'll give you an example. We ended up parting ways, and again, his admin, this is the one whose admin was like, I can do better than Shown. And I'm like, no, you can't. You really can't. But what happened was, and he and I were good friends, and I just couldn't get him to see that your admin is the problem, right? And this isn't the guy you're thinking about. You don't know this guy. And so then after we parted ways and he's no longer a client, then I said, hey, let's go. And he invited me to go speak at certain places. So we went out and we were speaking at certain places.
Yeah.
And then he started listening to me, but I had to, it's kind of like, and I know you don't like that book, The Game. All right. But there's some really hardcore marketing techniques in them. And one of the best techniques in there is you got to take them out of their environment and bring them into another environment so they can hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that was when I took them out of that environment, just said, look, your admin's right. We can't work with each other. And then when we went to speak, he's like, I just can't figure out what's going on in my business. And then when we sat down and had a cup of coffee, I wasn't getting paid, but he was open to listening.
Yeah.
Because he was so resistant to change.
Maybe if the game was just on marketing, I'd like it a little better.
Well, I think you had personal experiences with it. But if you read it at a market, so we're going to end with this. There's this girl, and she is a tall drink of water, right? She's really got she's really a sexy woman, but she's tall. She's like 6'3", so she's intimidating, right? So they had a thing called real social dynamics, right? So I told her, read the game, but read it in a marketing way. And she was like one of my followers. This is 15 years ago. And she was like that. And since she read it in a marketing aspect, and I said, we're going to go to the event, right? It was all guys. And so there's a thing called peacocking where, you put on your shirt and you got your little necklace and your John Travolta and you pop your collar. And so there's those guys
there. Goggles that make no sense.
Well, this guy, no, there's these guys there that were like differentiating themselves in the way they dress and all that, which is fine, right? But I was there to do the marketing. I'm like, I have no problem meeting women. I mean, every concert I go to, like, I'm like, why are you following me? But anyhow, so the thing is, at this event, this girl went there. She was the only girl. She's like 6'2", and every guy, and like, she had this air about her where I am not the one. Like, you think you're going to come up with your real social dynamics in your game, and I ain't here for the game. And every guy that even attempted anything with her, she just was like, and she was such a boss at the event. It was so fun to watch. She literally, it was great because she knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And she's just like, man, hit the road, and one of those guys is my friend. I can't remember his name, but he lives in San Diego, and he said he had to get out of that business. So
yeah, good for him.
Yeah. All right, cool. So how do we find each other? It's going to be coachmarketingmasterclass.com. Every Friday, we're free at 10 a.m. We should probably say this at the beginning because who's listening at this point? I bet you someone is listening right now.
In Belgium.
And it's 3 years from July 22nd.
Into the future, yes.
People still listen. I got like 50,000 downloads,
Yeah, that's funny.
So, all right. Okay, India. So tell us more about Coach Marketing Masterclass.
So it's a great place to get some tips, some pro tips. And oftentimes it's small enough that you will be catered to. We'll look at your website. We'll give you tips. It's just a lot of information. So you'll leave with things that you can do to implement, and it's a great community. So coachmarketingmasterclass.com. Come join us every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
And I think you could find us on Facebook at Coach Marketing Masterclass as well, but we don't really promote that. Maybe we should.
Yeah.